Welcome. Today we're talking about 3CX version 20 and navigating the new layout. We're going to have two different parts to this. The first part will be just normal user navigation, and then we are going to jump into the administrator navigation. I hope it is informative and you enjoy the show. So once you have navigated to 3CX using the URL in the welcome email or provided to you by JEI Tech, you can then log in. And once we are logged in, we are going to typically get to the team dashboard where you can see everybody on your system. So as you can see, this is our testing system that we'll be using for the demo today. We can see some of the extensions that are available and on, some of the ones that are not registered. If one of those people were to pick up a call, it would show them on the phone, and it also allows a quick and easy way for you to contact those people if you don't know everybody's extension number. Now, JEI Tech typically will set these up with either 3 or 4-digit extensions, depending on your business and the size. From the team on the left-hand side, we also have the ability to chat, similar to something like Teams or Slack or WhatsApp. It's an internal chat that's on the system. You can create group chats, chat with people on the system by selecting them from the list or by typing in names or searching for those people in there. We also have the ability to do web and video meetings from 3CX that are um, that are again separate to something like Microsoft Teams. It has the option, many of the similar and same options that you have, and you can share that out via all of these methods down here. With the rise of Teams and Zoom, the use of 3CX meetings has decreased, but that does come by default with all of our 3CX licenses. We also have a call history to see any calls made in and out of the system from a list here for testing. You can delete and use those. For people that we've given permission, there is also a way for you to see all of the calls going on in the system. There's different levels to this. There's a receptionist that can divert calls. For example, a call that has not been picked up and they know somebody's not in the office, they can use this panel to divert from extension 1 to extension 2. This can also be used by management if there's a call that they need to barge into or assist someone with. Working with some of our customers in more of a call center style. Sometimes this is used for training where you can coach somebody through a call or have multiple people on a call. And lastly, we have contacts. Now these contacts can be system isolated and only created and exist inside 3CX. We also have the ability to import contacts from places like Microsoft 365, CRM. There's company level contacts that we can set up that are shared between every employee and extension in the business. And then there's personal ones that only I can see. By default, if I were to create a contact, this is going to be a company one, as you can see there, but it's just as simple as checking off a box as to who and where you would like that contact to show up for. Also have the ability to access your own voicemail, any voicemails that have been recorded to play, listen to, transcribe if transcription is turned on for your system. It does unfortunately come at an extra cost. Is all done through this window here. You can delete voicemails, you can call people back, you can play them. We can also turn on voicemail to emails so that they come in there. And lastly, we'll go through the settings really quick. So this is where you can set up your mobile phone number, your department, if this is available to you. Some of these are set up. If we set up departments, sometimes we can restrict those. For example, if we have like a finance department or a technicians department, and we don't want those departments to see people outside of that, departments can be used for many different things from permissions to call control, as well as just like allowing certain departments to call internationally or not. But we have some basic settings in here, so you can see what the default system voicemail number is. You can change or see or reset your voicemail PIN. Um, on the left-hand side, we can set up call forwarding rules. So when I'm available, do this and this, and how to do that. For example, if I want to be able to accept multiple calls, so if I'm on a call, my phone will ring and I can see that. You can turn that on in here. So you can have it forward to someone else's extension if you like. You can have it forward to your cell phone. When you're forwarding to your cell phone, there's this option for rebound. What rebound does is it will call your cell phone, and if it doesn't reach you, it will return to the voicemail on the system, so they don't actually leave a voicemail on your cell phone. If you do not have that turned on, they will be completely transferred to your cell phone, and they will leave a voicemail on your cell phone. The call will leave the 3CX system. We can forward to just a normal external number. Again, we have that rebound connection where you can define a specific phone number if you'd like. Or they can forward to a menu or a parking or somewhere else, or a conference, for example. Um, or you can just say that you're busy. Um, do not disturb, similar thing, lunch, business trip, exceptions. You can create exceptions. So if someone from this phone number calls in at any time of day or night, immediately send them to my mobile or send them to my voicemail or just ignore the call. It's a way to set that up. You can also schedule things. So if you work different hours to the rest of the business and you want to be available from 6 a.m. till 5 p.m. instead of 9 till 5, you can define that in here. And typically automatically switch to available during office hours is turned on by default when we set up the system. The rest of these, there isn't really much to talk about. 3CX Talk and Meet is very rarely used. These are ways that people can set up direct chats and meeting with you from another 3CX system without needing, or from a web page without needing to be on a 3CX system. How you want your chats to show up. In this case, I am using my headset and computer rather than a phone on my desk. So I can set up what I would like, where I'd like the ringer to come in, what video camera I'd like, what headset I'd like to use, and choose those down here. Um, you can choose to hide extensions that aren't registered. So, for example, in that team, when I had that turned on, there was people that have never had their phone turned on that were showing up. So in some businesses, this may be more of a concern than others. So you can see all of these lines are not registered because of it's our test system. So they show up in here, and like you're never going to be able to call that person. So in some cases, that may be something that you may want to turn on or off in here. Um, Greetings, you can have different greetings for different statuses. So if you set yourself to available, you're going to have your default greeting. But maybe you want to have one because you're going away on a business trip that's different to your normal one. So you can upload that, you can record that, you can use a phone to record that and manage that from here. And then integrations, again, like I said, we can set this up with Microsoft 365 or CRMs. And lastly, there is your BLFs. If you have a physical phone on your desk and there are programmable buttons, most of the phones supplied by JEI Tech have at least 5, if not more, programmable buttons. You can come in here and change the order of those buttons. You can create custom speed dials. You can create custom buttons to change your status if you want to make sure that you have a button so that you can just hit it on a physical phone. You can always change it from inside here as well. You can choose to set that status temporarily for just a certain amount of time. If you do click on one of these, it is permanent until you switch it back. Um, there's lots of different options when it comes to the buttons. You can go through each one of these and set them up as to your heart's content. BLF does stand for a busy light field. So if you want a light that is green if they are off the phone and red if they are on the phone for a specific person, that is what BLF is for. Right, so let's jump into the admin section for 3CX version 20. The admin section for version 20 has changed quite significantly. Previously on earlier versions of 3CX, there was two different portals. It is now included in the same portal that you log into with the rest of your stuff, is down here on the bottom left under admin. And once you jump into here, your navigation is still on the left, but you'll notice that if you've used previous versions and are more familiar with it, a lot of these tabs have changed. And sometimes navigating that can be a little bit difficult, even for myself, as I'm still learning the new system compared to the old one. There is lots of useful information on the primary dashboard. Some of the alerts and red things can be easily dismissed. For example, the alert on the trunks, JEI Tech does not use a provider that is 3CX approved. Their 3CX approved list is very constrained, and there aren't any issues with that, but that's one of the areas that you might notice a notification, but it's not anything to be alarmed by. As an administrator, this is a place that you can see active calls. If there's a stuck call, you can click on that in here and turn that off if you need to. If you are hitting your license limit, this is maybe somewhere that you can check that out. Um, this is where you can see some of the logs, event logs, and make decisions based on that. So you can see someone was trying to phone into our system from a strange number here, and so that was being blocked. But in the event that you were trying to troubleshoot something, the event log can be quite helpful, as well as the activity log. Let's jump into creating a new extension, or as 3CX now refers to them in version 20, a new user of the system. One thing to note is that the email for the user does have to be unique. If we click Add User, it does require a first name, and then we can set up any of the other fields that we might need: a mobile phone number, email address for the user, last name, outbound caller ID, assign any incoming DIDs. If you want to enable or enforce MFA, we do recommend that be turned on by default. If you would like to enable talk and meet, call forwarding, if you would like to configure those rules, you can do so. If this extension uses a different schedule than the regular office hours, this is where, like I said, typically if JEI Tech is creating the user, we will turn this automatically switch to available in case somebody forgets to turn off their DND. If you need to add an IP phone, this is where you would do that. You're going to select the model of the phone that you would like to download to connect to the system. Once you have selected that model, you will then put in the MAC address, and we can always view the configuration guide for that phone if you are interested. This is where, as an administrator, you can set the BLFs for a user if you require. So similar to the personal ones that are under the user settings in the 3CX web application, you can do them, set it as an administrator from here. Voicemail, again, this is where we can override the PIN and choose different things of reading the date and time the voicemail was left out loud on the system. And if they have multiple greetings, or you would like to upload a standard company greeting, can be done here when you're setting up the user. This is to set up whether they can view or access certain things based on department settings. So example, again, if we were to have multiple departments, maybe this user needs to be able to see the presence of the finance department. We could check that off here, but not see the calls and not be able to barge in, listen, or whisper to those. If they do need those features, we can just turn those on here. If you are having trouble creating the extension, sometimes we've seen some issues where it won't create it without an email address. There may be two locations that you might need to change some settings. Change the email option to no email, and under options, turn off send email notification on missed call. There does look to be an update that has corrected this behavior, but those are some settings that will sometimes turn off if there is an issue with that. One other one that we may turn on, depending on the user, is PBX delivers audio. If we're troubleshooting anything, we'll often turn this on to try and determine if there's any kind of audio problems on the phone. And lastly, hot desking. Hot desking allows multiple people to use one phone if that desk is not dedicated to a user. So I can show up to a phone, type in my extension and my voicemail pin, and sign into that phone for a temporary amount of time. When I'm done, I can sign out of that phone, and someone else can sit down and sign in with their extension and their voicemail. Those features are enabled and turned on, available in the system at no additional cost. Once we're done setting up the user, we click Save, and that will go ahead and create the user on the system, as you can see here. Voice and chat, this may or may not be available to you depending on your permissions on the system. Typically, if JEI Tech is managing the system, we will hide this, as this does manage all of the call routing into and out of the system. So trunks are what we use to bring phone calls from our provider into your phone system, and then you use rules under call handling to determine where those calls are going to go. So we'll get into those a little bit later, and I won't dig too deeply into this, but you can see any of your router phones or session border controllers in here, as well as your trunks to the primary provider for your system, which in most cases is going to be JEI Tech. Phones, this is where you can see the phones that are actively actually connected to your system. You can see how and where they're connected over here. And you can manage those by provisioning, rebooting them from here. You can also, if you are on the same network as the phone, view the device web console. So since this is a cloud-based system, you can see that option is missing for me. But you can view the password to those phones by going to auth info over here if you do need to log into that phone locally. So from my computer that is local to the phone, I could view this by going to that IP address and typing in that password. Outbound rules, again, most times JEI Tech will manage this for you, and this will be a general outbound test that will go out to your of what and how we want phone numbers to dial out. If we have multiple DIDs or phone numbers at a business, we may have multiple rules set up of that. Calls from extension 100 to 200 call out as phone number 1, and calls from extension 200 to 400 call out as phone number 2, because they're at a different physical location or whatever the reason may be. This is where we set those up. You can see this one's just a basic one of any calls to numbers 10 or 11 digits. So North America wide calling is going to route out our test trunk. Departments, like I've mentioned previously, are kind of a secure, can be used for security. These can be used for limiting which users can see who's available, and can be used for many other things as well. So they are quite helpful. If you would like us to walk through that, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'd be happy to help you out with possibly setting up some departments for your business. Office hours. So, typically, again, this being a test system, we don't have any, but, typically we would have a conversation with you of uh, how long you're open for, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or whatever, and set those rules up based on your work week. And then we can also define office holidays in here and what kind of prompts you would like to play on that. The prompts on this are limited. They don't allow you to create a menu system. So if you do have, like, this is just going to play a prompt and hang up after it's done. So, if you're closed on Christmas Day and you don't want customers to be able to reach you, this works really well. If you are looking for on Christmas Day people to get a specific message saying that it is Christmas and then give them the option to press 1, 2, or 3, you can't configure that here under Office Holidays. Call handling. So this is where, like I said, this is where we can start setting up where and how we want certain phone numbers to land. So you can see here, there's a ring all strategy set up for this testing number. If you call that number, it is probably likely not going to ring anywhere. We typically rotate these numbers on a regular basis, but what we can do is we can have this set up to, if nobody answers, we can have it forward to someone. We can have it go to an outside number if we would like. We can have it go to a menu system, which is considered a digital receptionist. And then the users that are in here is going to be the ring all. So this will list out who it's going to call. And if it is set to ring all, it is going to ring all of those people at once. But we do have the option to prioritize those people. So it would then ring in a 1, 2, 3, 4 order, and try each of those people before going to how we would like the call to end up. To add a user, you just click on add a user and select which one you would like. And then again, transcription is a feature that we can turn on, but it does require a certain license. It is an additional feature, and so that is grayed out on our test system. Once again, if you do want to enable talk and meet, we can do that. It is included at no additional cost, but typically we don't use that with the favor of things like Teams and Zoom. We can add a digital receptionist. This is a menu system, so we can have, if somebody was to call this DID, it would play some prompt of press 0 to do something, press 1 to connect to so and so, press 2 to leave a voicemail or contact this ring group, whether that's sales or marketing or something along those lines. And then you can also have this set up to connect to another digital receptionist. So it can be multi-layered, of press 1 for sales, and then when you press 1 for sales, do you want to speak to our Calgary office or our Edmonton office or so on and so forth. And then, of course, you can choose, when the office is closed, do you want it to just go directly to a voicemail? You don't want it to ring. You don't want it to waste anybody's time, or how you want to handle that. And it can play an announcement before it does that action. So when the office is closed, route it to a voicemail. But before you route it to the voicemail, say, hey, we're closed. We're routing you to the voicemail. Again, under options, we can do all kinds of different fun stuff with if there's an invalid destination entered when they, instead of pressing 1 or 2, they type 5 and it's not set up. What do you want it to do? If you leave these blank, it will just do what's in the box here. It will repeat the prompt. And go from there. The SMS option, again, that's additional features. We're not going to jump into SMS today, but 3CX does have SMS now. It is API based, and there are some concerns about timing and reliability on that. So we are actively testing that, and more information on that to follow. Reporting. So this gets into a little bit of management stuff here of, if you want call logs, call histories, and that kind of thing. 3CX is actively building out their AI platform, and hopefully will be able to give us a lot more information, like it says there, sentiment and summary of calls, that kind of thing. For now, think of this just as normal logging. If you want to see the call log of somebody, if you're troubleshooting something, if you do have call queues or some kind of call team involved, that's where these calls statistics and SLAs can become important. We can set up rules on these so that they automatically send out if you're interested in that. We can set up call costs so that we understand how much a department is costing us to call Typically, JEI Tech has North America-wide unlimited calling, so that typically isn't an issue. But for some of our clients who have like international calling, keeping track of those costs might be important. Like I mentioned earlier, the event log is very good for troubleshooting. If you're trying to set up a new phone or something like that, you can see kind of a log of everything that's happening. If we do have call recording turned on for your system, this is where an administrator can come in and see those. Depending on the user settings, sometimes we can allow users just to see their own calls. Sometimes we can have an administrator that's allowed to see all calls on the system. Sometimes it can be department based. So there's lots of settings that we can call through on here. We can have recordings older than a certain amount, are automatically deleted, or if it's based on space. And then we also have call archiving that we can do if you need longer retention, that kind of thing. Backups, typically don't need to touch anything in here. A lot of this stuff is, again, set up by us to back up to a server outside of wherever your 3CX server is, whether that's cloud hosted or local. We'll make sure that we have a backup of that in a second and third location. We back up to one, and then from there we back up to another, just to make sure that there's a copy of your information if anything should happen. Again, we kind of touched on integrations already. You can see here there's Microsoft 365 and Teams are built in. You do have to have some Microsoft 365 licensing. That's not a 3CX requirement, but actually a Microsoft requirement. You can license with Google for certain things like single sign-on and stuff like that. As I said, transcription is an additional fee. They do have their own 3CX one, but OpenAI and Google can also be integrated into this if you already have those, as well as many of the other things like hotel services. It can all be turned on in here, or some kind of CRM or custom solution for your whatever you're using for your business. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this session informative, and we will see you next time.